The platform is still there. It sits on the south side of Chipley, Florida, cracked concrete, faded yellow paint on the edge, a small shelter with rusted bolts where a sign used to hang. A freight train rolls through 3 or 4 times a day. It does not stop. The last time a passenger train stopped in Chipley was on August 25, 2005, the day before Hurricane Katrina made landfall and everything east of New Orleans went dark. The Sunset Limited, America's oldest continuously operating named train running since 1894, made its final Florida stop, turned around, and never came back. 20 years later, the tracks are intact. The freight trains use them every single day. The platform waits. That platform in Chipley is not an outlier. It is a pattern, and the pattern has a name. What video are you watching that actually tells you how this happened? Subscribe to American Ironworks and tell me in the comments which of these lines you grew up near. The United States rail network peaked in 1916 at 254,000 miles. Today, it sits at roughly 136,000 miles. More than the entire current network has been removed since then, quietly, incrementally, over a century of decisions most people never saw made. This is not a story about trains losing to the highway. That explanation is true, but incomplete. The fuller story involves named executives, a specific management philosophy, a piece of 2008 legislation that nobody outside Washington read, and state budget lines that were simply never written. The Sunset Limited is the sharpest case. In 1993, Amtrak extended it all the way from Los Angeles to Florida, making it the only coast-to-coast passenger train in the country. 12 years later, Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. The Norfolk Southern Bridge across Lake Pontchartrain, nearly 5 miles of it, was washed away. CSX took approximately 110 miles of track damage across Mississippi. Service east of New Orleans stopped. The freight infrastructure was rebuilt. Within a few years, freight trains were running the Gulf Coast corridor again. Amtrak's passenger trains were not. CSX and Norfolk Southern, the 2 freight railroads that own the tracks east of New Orleans, argued that passenger service would affect freight reliability unless infrastructure upgrades were completed. The upgrades were not funded. No passenger train followed the freight trains back. Amtrak conducted an inspection tour of the CSX-owned tracks on February 18th and 19th, 2016. The rails were usable. The report concluded service was feasible. No trains came. The Surface Transportation Board opened formal proceedings in 2021 after Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi sent a letter requesting action. That letter cited the economic impact on Bay St. Louis, Gulfport, Biloxi, and Pascagoula, cities that had been without passenger rail for 16 years. No service resulted from those proceedings either. The STB's own data shows the Sunset Limited's on-time performance from October 2023 through 2024 was 40.3%, an average 80-minute delay caused primarily by freight railroad dispatching on CSX, Union Pacific, and Norfolk Southern tracks. The freight railroads that blocked passenger service restoration were simultaneously the ones whose dispatching decisions caused 2 of every 3 Sunset Limited trains to run late. The Mardi Gras service, a limited New Orleans to Mobile run, launched on August 18, 2025. It is not the Sunset Limited. It does not reach Biloxi. It does not reach Pensacola. It does not reach Florida. The transcontinental route that ran from Los Angeles to Miami remains suspended. A retired postal worker in Biloxi who once took the Sunset Limited to visit his daughter in Orlando now drives 4 hours to find a train. The tracks run outside his neighborhood. He watches freight pass his window at highway speed and wonders what decision that was exactly. The answer, for that line and for 9 others, involves a chain of events that started well before Katrina. Number 2 on this list is the Pioneer. It ran from Seattle to Chicago, through Portland, Boise, Salt Lake City, and Denver, covering 2,662 miles of the most scenic rail corridor in North America. It was the last passenger service to Wyoming, the last to southern Idaho, the last to eastern Oregon. Congress funded it under a mandate. When the mandate expired in January 1997, Amtrak President Thomas Downs announced the Pioneer would end on May 10th. States had until March 15th to submit funding proposals. Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, and Colorado held negotiations. No agreements were reached. On May 11, 1997, the Pioneer completed its last trip. The Federal Railroad Administration's January 2025 report to Congress recommended restoring the Pioneer route. As of this recording, it has not been restored. The towns of Pendleton, Baker City, and Ontario, Oregon have had no passenger rail for 28 years. Boise, Idaho, a city whose population has grown from 125,000 in 1997 to over 240,000 today, has had no intercity passenger rail for the same period. The Idaho Department of Transportation's intercity bus service covers part of the corridor. The Pioneer had carried passengers in sleeping cars with dining service. Number 3 is the Desert Wind, Chicago to Los Angeles through Salt Lake City, through the Nevada Desert, through Las Vegas. Before Amtrak, Union Pacific operated the city of Los Angeles over much of the same corridor. The Desert Wind ran from 1979 to May 1997, cut the same week as the Pioneer in the same budget round. Las Vegas hosts roughly 40 million visitors a year. It has no Amtrak service. The old Union Plaza station, the only Amtrak station in the United States ever located inside a casino, closed with the Desert Wind in 1997. The space is now the Hotel Gym. The memorabilia from its years as a rail station is on the second floor, behind the casino floor. The tracks between Barstow and Salt Lake City, approximately 800 miles of corridor, are intact, actively used by Union Pacific Freight, and have not carried a passenger train in 29 years. Number 4 is the Silver Star. New York to Miami, 1,522 miles, 38 stops, operating continuously since December 12, 1947, through the Korean War, through Vietnam, through the collapse of Penn Central, through the oil crisis, through COVID. On November 9, 2024, it ran its last trip. Amtrak combined it with the Capital Limited the next day to form the Floridian, a Chicago to Miami service that skips New York entirely. Amtrak called this temporary, citing East River Tunnel rehabilitation. The Silver Service brand was quietly discontinued the same day. Ridership in fiscal year 2025 was 38,138 passengers, down 90.2% from 351,732 the year before. The drop reflects what happened. Most of those passengers no longer had a route. Railway Age magazine ran a piece titled Farewell, Silver Star, 1939 to 2024. No ceremony, no formal retirement. One day it existed, the next day it didn't. Subscribe to American Ironworks if the mechanism here is what you came to understand, because number 5 is where the mechanism becomes visible. Number 5 is the Cardinal. New York to Chicago through Charlottesville, the New River Gorge, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, 1,146 miles, 30 stops across 11 states. It has run 3 days a week since 1982. That is not a temporary service level. It has been 3 days a week for 44 years. The Cardinal is the only Amtrak service to 8 West Virginia communities: Alderson, Charleston, Hinton, Huntington, Montgomery, Prince, Thurmond, and White Sulphur Springs. Thurmond, West Virginia, population roughly 5 people, is one of Amtrak's least busy stations. It also sits inside the New River Gorge National Park, which gained national park status in 2020. The stations at Prince and Thurmond now serve national park visitors who have no other public transit option. Senator Robert Byrd lobbied Amtrak for years to keep the Cardinal running. In April 2018, Amtrak announced it would eliminate the ticket agent at Charleston, the last manned station in West Virginia. Senator Joe Manchin intervened and got the position reinstated. The train still runs 3 days a week. In December 2023, the Biden administration awarded $500,000 for a first-step feasibility study toward daily Cardinal service. Daily operation would require an estimated $12 to $15 million annually in host railroad access costs above current levels. a figure that has not been committed by any state or federal source. The study was the first step. Number 6 is the Hoosier State. Chicago to Indianapolis, 196 miles, it had operated since 1980 on the 4 days each week the Cardinal did not run, providing daily service to the corridor. In Indiana's 2019 state budget, the funding line was not included. No vote was cast against the train. No policy position was stated. A line item worth $3 million per year for a state with an annual highway budget exceeding $1.5 billion was simply absent from the document. A federal law passed in 2008 requires state sponsorship for trains primarily serving one state. Without the budget line, Amtrak had no legal mechanism to fill the gap. On June 30th, 2019, the Hoosier State made its final run. 7 passengers boarded the last northbound departure in Crawfordsville, a city of roughly 16,000 people in west-central Indiana. A retired high school teacher named Dr. Helen Hudson had organized a send-off. She and volunteers planted flowers at the station in the weeks before the final run. The towns of Crawfordsville, Dyer, and Rensselaer lost their last long-distance public transportation option that day. Greyhound had already withdrawn from the corridor the previous January. Numbers 7 through 10 involve a management philosophy that most passengers have never heard of. In 2017, CSX Transportation hired E. Hunter Harrison as CEO. Harrison had previously run Illinois Central and Canadian National, where he drove the operating ratio from roughly 80% down to 61%, and he had also run Canadian Pacific. His management philosophy was precision scheduled railroading. The concept was to run longer trains on fewer routes, cut the workforce, close repair shops and classification yards, and run everything on a fixed timetable that prioritizes asset utilization. In the first 2 years after CSX adopted the model, it fired 22% of its equipment maintenance workers, 16% of its train crews, and 11% of its maintenance staff. Union Pacific implemented its version, called Unified Plan 2020, in October 2018, beginning with the Wisconsin to Texas corridor and rolling out network-wide by mid-2019. Norfolk Southern followed under a program called Top 21. By 2020, 5 of the 6 Class 1 railroads had adopted it. In 2018, while this was being implemented, Class 1 railroads fined shippers $1.2 billion for failing to comply with schedules the railroads themselves had imposed without negotiation. The Surface Transportation Board held an emergency hearing in April 2022 after receiving what it called a waterfall of shipper complaints. Chris John, president and CEO of the American Chemistry Council, testified that precision scheduled railroading is just doing less with less. Of the 6 Class Y railroads at the time, only BNSF had not adopted the model. BNSF was the only one whose safety record improved in 2018. Harrison died December 16, 2017, 7 months after joining CSX. By then, the philosophy had already spread. The Surface Transportation Board opened a separate investigation into the Sunset Limited's on-time performance in July 2023. The primary cause of delay on almost every long-distance Amtrak route is freight dispatching. The host railroads, CSX, Union Pacific, and Norfolk Southern, control when Amtrak trains move on their tracks. Precision scheduled. Railroading. Deprioritizes any train that is not a scheduled freight consist. The framework that built the Sunset Limited's abandonment did not start with Katrina. The freight railroads that decided passenger trains were an obstacle to freight efficiency had spent years constructing a rationale before the storm gave them a cleaner justification. Number 9 on this list is the Alabama Railroad, 48 miles between Flamarton and Peterman, built 1880 to 1901. It was filed for abandonment in April 2019. Track removal started in 2021. The interchange at Flamarton, the connection to the CSX main line, was pulled between 2023 and 2025. A 125-year-old corridor was physically dismantled. Number 10. On a single week in November 2024, the Surface Transportation Board approved abandonment exemptions for Norfolk Southern on 4 separate lines: in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, in Pitt County, North Carolina, in Mingo County, West Virginia, and in the city of Baltimore, Maryland. 4 states, 1 week, 4 lines gone. The platforms are still there in some of those places. They will be for a while. Concrete lasts longer than the decisions that justified building it. The deliberate neglect frame means this: the Sunset Limited tracks east of New Orleans carry freight. The Pioneer tracks through Idaho carry freight. The Desert Wind tracks through Nevada carry freight. Every corridor on this list, with the exception of the Alabama Railroad being physically torn up, is in active use by the companies that decided passenger service was too disruptive to accommodate. The tracks did not disappear. The institutional will to use them for passengers disappeared. Those are different things. The first is a technical problem. The second is a choice. The Surface Transportation Board maintains a public map of every abandoned and rail-banked line since 2004. The GAO published a report on precision scheduled railroading. The STB held hearings. Amtrak President Thomas Downs signed off on the Pioneer and Desert Wind. The CSX and Norfolk Southern executives, who restarted Gulf Coast Freight in 2006 and declined to restore the Sunset Limited, are identifiable in their annual filings. The Indiana legislators, whose budget omitted the Hoosier State line item, are on public record. The paper trail exists. Subscribe to American Iron Works. The platforms are still there. The question worth asking is not why the train stopped, it is who decided they should.